Hello, in this video I will explain the bone structure and growth. Now guys, in addition to their role in providing support, allowing movement, protecting internal organs inside our bodies, the bones also are living tissues. They produce blood cells. They act as a bank of minerals. Bones generally guys covered by very thin layer called periosteum. This thin layer, it's a very thin layer. It's a connective tissue. This layer covers the bone and holds and protects blood vessels that run alongside the bone tissue. Okay, so this is the periosteum, a very thin layer. It's not the bone itself. It's a thin connective tissue. Now, the bone structure. Let me scroll down here. The bone, generally two types. We have compact bones and spongy bones. So the compact bone here, it's a very dense layers of bone cells, while the spongy bone here, if you can notice, it's from its name, it's like a sponge. Good. Now, the compact bone protect the inner layers and support the body weight. And it contains the osteocytes. It's a small holes, okay, here, and something called Haversian canals. Haversian canals. Through the Haversian canals run blood vessels. While the spongy bone here composed of red bone marrow. And I will explain later what is the difference between yellow bone marrow and red bone marrow. So compact bone is hard, dense layer that protects against jolts and bumps. It's found inside the periosteum but outside the spongy bone. Compact bone is made up of several calcium-rich rings. These rings maintained by bone cells called osteocytes. These are osteocytes. Okay? Now, which are scattered in small spaces throughout the rings. At the center of the rings are channels called Haversian canals, each of which contains a small blood vessel. This is the Haversian canals. Okay? Contains the blood vessels and protects the blood vessels. Spongy bone is the less dense bone that is surrounded by compact bone. Spongy bone is a porous tissue that holds and protects red or yellow bone marrow. So this is the yellow bone marrow. This is the red bone marrow. As people mature and grow, some of the red bone marrow in their bones is replaced with yellow bone marrow. So basically guys, the yellow bone marrow here is the factory, and the red bone marrow, think of it as the product. So this is the factory, this is the product. Once this needs replenishing, the yellow bone marrow cells will turn into red bone marrow cells. Good. Now, yellow marrow is mostly fat. That's why in many cultures you find it's a cuisine that a cuisine of some cultures where they eat the yellow bone marrow. So, but it can change back into red marrow and produce blood cells if the body suddenly loses blood. So again guys, this is the factory and these are the products. The factory here. Once the red marrow needs replenishing, the yellow bone marrow cells will turn into red bone marrow. Also, it manufactures the blood cells. Now, regarding the bone growth, human embryos do not have bones at first. Of course, they have only cartilage. The cartilage over time becomes hardened bones. So bones from when cells called osteoblast. Okay? So cells called osteoblasts. I need you to remember these names correctly, guys. Osteoblasts. So osteoblasts secretes chemicals that cause cartilage to harden. Osteoblasts blasts release mixture of collagen, okay, and calcium phosphate. So collagen, which is a strong fibrous connective tissue, calcium phosphate, which is mineral that hardens the collagen. When the osteoblast secretes the collagen and calcium phosphate, the process of creating hard bone by combining collagen and calcium phosphate, this is calcification. Calcification.
Calcification. Process that hardens bones by adding calcium phosphate and collagen.
Good. So once bone calcifies, the trapped osteoblasts here called osteocyte. So the osteoblast here, before this, we call it osteoblast. Once the osteoblast produce enough calcium phosphate and collagen for the bone to harden, the cartilage to harden, the trapped osteoblast called osteocyte. So osteocytes are specialized bone cells that have produced compact bone. Good. Bones grew from their ends, where the cartilage is located. After birth, two bands of cartilage remain at either end of the bone until puberty. Children's bones grow longer, wider, and thicker. In adolescence, sex hormones stimulate bones to become denser. Bones are strongest when a person is between 18 and 30 years old. After that, bones lose density because calcium is taken from the bones and used elsewhere in the body. So, let's explain this in another way. So, guys, like we already established that from infancy, bones starts as cartilage. Then they become hardened and become bones, and throughout the years, your bone will become taller, wider, and thicker. That's the growing up process, okay? Now, have you ever wondered why we tell our elderly people, like for example, you tell your grandpa or grandma, grandpa, don't be careful, don't fall down. Why? Because falling down for elderly people is very dangerous. Why? Because the bones losing density and the bones becomes weak. That's why falling down, the process of falling down from any step, whether it be while walking or from the staircase, any falling down is very dangerous for elderly people. Now, depositing and removing calcium from bones is a continual process that reshapes bones and helps maintain chemical homeostasis in the body. We already established that many times over, that homeostasis is maintained by all the processes inside your body. One of these processes is depositing and removing calcium. Now, in next session, I'll explain the PTH, which is a hormone that specializes in regulating calcitonin, and we will explain it next session. So I hope you enjoyed this class. There is a small homework for you. How are Haversian canals important to the function of spongy bone? Okay, answer this, guys. I wanna see your work. Thank you very much. See you next video. Bye bye.